Hi, welcome to Prime Recap. After suffering a serious accident, the greatest racer of all time must begin rigorous training to become capable of beating the fastest opponent he has ever faced. Today we will recap the story of the 2017 movie, Cars 3. There are only a few minutes until the start of another race in Lightning McQueen's career and, as usual, his best friend Mater is by his side to support him. After mentalizing the words of his late trainer, the Corvette rushes to the track and the race begins. For many years, McQueen has collected great victories and fans all over the world. His greatest adversary is Cal Weathers, for whom the Corvette nurtures a feeling of competition and friendship. Despite losing a few races, McQueen never stopped being the #1 racer for the fans. However, one day, a new opponent arrives to challenge him and, in the last seconds of the dispute, manages to steal his victory. Jackson Storm is a high-tech Cadillac that steals the spotlight after beating Lightning McQueen in his very first professional race. In the news, Chick, the sports reporter, comments on the defeat of the great track champion, and Natalie Certain reveals why Storm can be so fast. She says that the Cadillac is part of the new generation of high-tech racers that, unlike the old cars, uses precise strategies based on race data to achieve high speed. In the following weeks, 6 veteran racers are fired and new model cars take their places in the races. Storm manages to maintain his victory throughout the races and soon becomes the fans' favorite car. One day, after another defeat on the track, McQueen finds out that Cal, his old friend and opponent, has announced that he is retiring from racing. The vehicle reveals that he intends to make room for younger racers and states that he will miss competing against McQueen. Within a few weeks, the Corvette sees all of his colleagues either fired or retiring, and soon realizes that his time is coming, too. On this day, the competitor is furious at having lost his former opponents and decides to prove his worth by beating Storm in a race. After a quick pit stop, McQueen manages to regain the lead, but it doesn't take long before he is overtaken again. While trying to get back to the first position, the vehicle ends up sliding on the track and has a serious accident. McQueen rolls over several times and must be rescued immediately. 4 months later, he is still away from racing. The Corvette knows that his former manager suffered a similar accident before ending his career, and regrets that his days as a racer came to an end earlier than planned. That morning, McQueen receives a visit from Sally, his girlfriend, and reveals that he doesn't want what happened to Doc Hudson to happen to him. However, the Porsche advises him not to give up on his career and states that, unlike what happened to his trainer, McQueen still has a chance to start over. Just then, Mater shows up and reveals that he is excited to see his friend resume training after being out for so many months. The Corvette thanks all his team members for always believing in him and reveals that he is now entering a new phase of his racing career. Rusty and Dusty then invite him to come to the new Rust Ease Race Center and start training in the same way as the high-tech champions. After renewing his paint job, McQueen is ready to embark on a new adventure. Inside his truck, the racer makes a journey of several days and crosses the country to reach the training site. When he arrives at the race center, the former champion is greeted by numerous journalists and must dodge the spotlight to meet his old friends. Just then, Rusty and Dusty reveal that they have sold Rust Ease to a sponsor named Sterling. After being introduced, the vehicle appears and claims to be Lightning McQueen's biggest fan. The car is thrilled to see a wall full of memories from his career and says he is excited to start this new phase. So Sterling takes the Corvette to wear the electronic suit that his team has developed to monitor his vital signs and speed. Next, the sponsor presents all the upgrades he has made to that training center, which is now surrounded by high-tech equipment. However, what draws McQueen's attention most is the interactive racing simulator, which is the same one used by Storm to prepare for competitions. Sterling has also hired Cruz Ramirez, the best coach around, to coach his race team and help them overcome their own obstacles. Upon seeing her great idol in person for the first time, Cruz is excited and soon proposes exercises to help him increase his racing performance. However, the Corvette is frustrated as he realizes that he is being treated like an old man by his trainer. Despite being an older model vehicle, McQueen is in shape and knows he can dedicate himself much more to training. However, Cruz insists on going slowly in the training and uses motivational phrases to stimulate the pilot, which makes him more and more irritated. So at the first opportunity he gets, McQueen rushes to the racing simulator, despite the insistence of his trainer, who insists that he is not yet ready to use the equipment. As expected, McQueen fails to use the simulator. Without proper training, the vehicle crashes several times into the wall and causes a major disaster on the track, running over everything in its path. Terrified, he tries to rush out of the simulator and ends up destroying the equipment screen. After all this incident, McQueen is summoned to Sterling's office, who shows him a storage of the most varied products that will make up his new brand. The sponsor wants to help his idol to get several commercial contracts and even movie roles. In this way, McQueen will become even more famous. At this point, the racer discovers that he can no longer participate in the races, because his performance is well below that required to win. As such, Sterling believes that the best way out is to build on McQueen's legacy to build a profitable brand, rather than destroy him by returning to the track. However, the Corvette manages to convince his sponsor to give him one more chance, as he wants to prove that he is capable of winning a race again. Then Sterling gives him the opportunity to compete again. If he loses, McQueen will retire from racing, but if he wins, he can continue to compete. That same day, the vehicle decides to go train as he always did and goes running on Fireball Beach. His trainer accompanies him on this journey and brings along a treadmill to monitor McQueen's speed. However, he refuses to use the equipment and says he prefers to run on the sand. At the pilot's request, Luigi gives the start, and the finish line is the pier a few meters away. As he runs, Cruz plans to monitor his speed through an electronic personal assistant. To make this possible, the trainer needs to be as close as possible to McQueen. However, she gets bogged down and can barely get out of her place. Then, patiently, the Corvette tries to teach her some strategies for running on sand, but Cruz still finds it very difficult to keep up. Even after numerous runs, the trainer fails to make it to the pier, and McQueen decides to make one last attempt. This time, Cruz manages to keep up with him and, after checking his speed, finds that McQueen is slower than Storm. Frustrated at not being able to perform as expected, the runner goes in search of a competition, and Luigi helps him cover his body with mud so he won't be recognized. Cruz follows the Corvette, and as the other vehicles enter the track, McQueen realizes that he has ended up in a demolition arena. The gates close and the duo begins to be pursued. Countless cars join them in the race and are thrown everywhere. Amidst several wrecked vehicles, McQueen and Cruz team up to try to escape unharmed, but the trainer doesn't know how to drive on a mud-covered surface and ends up bogged down. At that instant, Fritter, the most feared vehicle in that competition, prepares for the attack and plans to destroy her opponent. However, seeing his friend in danger, McQueen rushes to her rescue and manages to pull Cruz out of the mud before she is hit. After suffering a big crash, Fritter is furious and goes after the Corvette. She is about to hit it when she accidentally runs over some tires and is thrown out. Next, a water truck approaches McQueen and, after tipping over, ends up spilling water on the car. At this time, the true identity of the famous champion is discovered and he has to flee from that place in a hurry. As she was the only one to remain unharmed at the end of the competition, Cruz wins the trophy and is thrilled with her achievement. The trainer shares her excitement with McQueen, who is furious about all the trouble she has caused. The competitor reminds her that if he loses his next race, his career will come to an end and says that Cruz doesn't understand his concern because she is not a runner. Upon hearing this, the yellow car is furious and orders Mac to park so she can leave. Before she leaves, she reveals that she always wanted to race and McQueen was her greatest inspiration. However, despite spending years preparing to become a racer, her lack of confidence prevented her from competing. So she decided to use her skill to train other racers. After revealing the sad truth about her past, Cruz leaves on her way to the training center and McQueen returns to the truck. While watching the news, the contestant discovers that, according to Natalie's statistical analysis, Storm has more than a 95% chance of winning the next race, while Lightning McQueen has just over a 1% chance of taking the trophy. Discouraged and hopeless, he calls his best friend and tells him that he will probably have to abandon his career because he is not making any progress with his training. At this decisive moment, all McQueen would like to do is to be able to talk to his first coach, and he regrets the fact that Doc is no longer among them. Upon hearing this, Mater advises him to talk to Smokey, who was a good friend of Doc's, and McQueen decides to go after him. However, before he begins his mission, the runner goes to apologize to Cruz and asks her to accompany him on this adventure. Then, the yellow car decides to forgive her friend and they head out to find Smokey. On the way, McQueen decides to take a break at the track where his trainer used to race and invites Cruz to a contest. The pair is going around a bend when McQueen spots another vehicle right in front of him and has to brake quickly. Immediately, the competitor recognizes him and finds that he has found the car he was looking for. Smokey takes the two friends to a bar, where they meet several of their retired idols. Cruz is thrilled to meet Louise, as he greatly admires her racing history and this encourages her to follow her dream. McQueen talks about Doc with his veterans and Smokey tells him that after he started racing, it didn't take long for him to become one of the best racers in the state. One day a newcomer decided to challenge him and tried to push Doc against the track wall. However, he managed to dodge the attack by spinning in the air and passing over his opponent. After hearing stories about his trainer's background, McQueen asks Smokey for some advice in order to win his next race. His biggest fear is losing his career and never being able to be happy again, just like Doc. Upon hearing this, Smokey decides to take the young runner for a ride and invites him to his garage. In this instant, McQueen spots numerous posters of himself on the wall and discovers that Doc was very happy acting as his trainer. Although he loved racing, he was very proud of McQueen and always sent letters to his friends telling them about his pupil's journey. While looking at the mural, Corvette remembers the good times he had at Doc's side and feels very grateful to have had the opportunity to learn from him. After talking with Smokey, McQueen feels confident to get back on the track. His mentor advises him to accept the fact that he is getting old and that he can never be faster than Storm, but can outsmart him to win the race. With this goal in mind, McQueen begins a new stage of training and enlists the help of his friend to improve his skills. During the race, Cruz starts in front and the Corvette needs to overtake her before completing the third lap on the track. On his first attempt, McQueen fails miserably and must intensify his training. There are only 2 days left until the race and the competitor has not yet managed to overtake Cruz. Still, he does not give up and continues to practice his overtaking with the goal of becoming able to advance on the track amidst the other competitors. Next, McQueen trains his reflexes and must dodge while being attacked by hay blocks. That night he is taken for a race in the forest and the challenge is to run through that place with the headlights off without hitting any trees. During the race, the Corvette ends up losing its electronic suit and can now no longer be monitored. After much training, the big day finally arrives, and everyone believes that Lightning McQueen will not show up for the competition. A few hours before the race begins, the Corvette makes his last attempt to overtake Cruz. However, during the journey, he begins to think of all the times he has been defeated and becomes paralyzed with fear. After crossing the finish line, Cruz celebrates her victory but feels bad when she sees McQueen with a completely defeated countenance. The contest is about to begin and Mac informs them that they need to hit the road if they are to arrive on time. Despite failing to achieve the expected result, McQueen thanks his veterans for the training and leaves on his way to the most important race of his life. Meanwhile, at the Florida International Speedway, the host announces the start of a new season of the Piston Cup, where 250,000 fans are eagerly awaiting the outcome of the competition. Natalie, the master statistician, announces that the numbers are even more in Storm's favor, who now has almost a 97% chance of winning that race. When he arrives at the stadium, the Corvette meets his friends and Sally soon realizes that there is something wrong with him. Unlike usual, McQueen is downcast and shows no excitement about the race. At this point, Storm appears to greet his opponent and makes a point of taunting him before heading to the track. McQueen will also take his place at the starting point and tries to cheer himself up by seeing the cheers of his fans and friends. Despite starting in last position, the competitor manages to advance quickly and soon begins to make progress in the race. Smokey maintains contact with the runner throughout the dispute and encourages him to catch up with his opponent as soon as possible. Seeing Cruz rooting for McQueen's victory, Sterling orders the trainer to return to the training center and prepare the other competitors for next weekend's race. Confused that she is being kicked out, Cruz tries to argue and says that she wants to watch McQueen race. However, Sterling insists that the trainer go do her job and take off the racing tires she is wearing, since she is not a competitor. McQueen is in the middle of the race and listens to everything his sponsor says. In that instant, he remembers the happiness in Cruz's eyes when she is on the track and decides to give her another chance to participate in a race. Just then, an accident happens on the track, but the Corvette manages to swerve. He then asks Smokey to go after his friend and bring her back to the stadium. When she arrives on the scene, Cruz is surprised to be prepared for the race, as McQueen wants her to have the chance to show her talent to the world. Sterling tries to stop his trainer from participating in the competition, however, Mater manages to distract him so that Cruz enters the track. Seeing the entire audience staring at her, she is unable to run and finishes last in the competition. However, when she hears McQueen's words, Cruz begins to speed up and overtakes the competitors as she remembers the training she did alongside the Corvette. The trainer then follows all her friends' commands and manages to get closer to the first position. Cruz is among the leaders in the race and Storm begins to worry. In an attempt to deconcentrate her, the Cadillac slows down its speed and begins to taunt the trainer, saying that she will never be a real racer. Upon hearing this, Cruz feels discouraged and starts to quit the race. However, McQueen stops her from doing so by saying that the only reason Storm tried to take her out of the game is because he felt threatened by her. It doesn't take long before the yellow car catches up to her main opponent and remains close to his rear until she tries to overtake him. At this moment, Cruz suffers an attack and is pushed against the wall. Determined to win that competition, she is inspired by Doc's maneuver and spins in the air, passing over Storm. Thus, by thousandths of a second, the trainer wins the race and the fans enthusiastically celebrate this unexpected victory. Now that his coach has won the trophy for one of the biggest competitions in the country, Sterling invites her to join his team of runners, but Cruz politely declines his invitation. Just then, Tex, Cal Weathers' former sponsor, approaches and invites the winner to join his team. Since McQueen failed to win the competition, Sterling reminds him that he will have to leave the racetrack, but something unexpected happens. Since Cruz took his place in the race after McQueen had already started, both were named winners, and now the Corvette can continue to compete. Seeing his trainer receiving so much limelight, McQueen feels proud of her. Weeks later, he becomes Cruz's new team manager and risks a new look. Inspired by his former trainer, the competitor adopts the name Fabulous Lightning McQueen and reveals that Tex is the new owner of Rusty's, which means he no longer has to worry about following Sterling's orders. The duo is happy to see all their friends gathered around the track to watch the dispute between the two racers, who now feel truly fulfilled for having the opportunity to live their great dream. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.